Welcome to this brief introduction to elder planning. I have some formal qualifications to give this talk, but actually, much of this information I learned the hard way as a caregiver for both my mother and father, and as a field ombudsman in California. I had an added challenge with my dad who had Alzheimer's, and I had an added incentive as a senior to learn how to plan for myself and my family. Elder planning finally has everyone's attention. The 85 and over population is the fastest growing age group in the country and is projected to rise from 5.8 million today to 19 million in 2050. An American who reaches age 65 can expect to live on average another 18.5 years. We are living longer and are dying gradually rather than suddenly, which used to be the norm. As a consequence, we will need more care. Americans are having smaller families than generations have had in the past, so the number of family caregivers is dwindling. Children are dispersed across the country and less available for caregiving. Yet 70% of all 65-year-olds will need some long-term care before they die. 1 out of 5 will need it for more than 5 years. If most families are honest, they don't have a clue what to do when their loved ones finally need help. If seniors have not prepared for their eventual incapacity, their children will have a difficult and expensive task ahead to help. Most adult children don't know what preparations, if any, their parents have had made for their future care. They may not even know the names of their parents' physicians, friends, or neighbors. The time to prepare is before there is a crisis. You don't want to deal with these issues for the first time in the emergency room. And part of that preparation requires a little education about your senior family members' true future wishes and the categories of resources available in your community to help and what they cost in dollars and time. The intention here is to get you started with an overview. Families need to learn how to assess senior needs, how to create a caregiver plan, how to discuss future living options, how to find qualified local help, how to identify the essential documents you need in the event of incapacity, and how to pay for it all in time and money. The reality is that we are all mortal. We all will die. Some of us slide down the hill, some of us fall off the cliff. But sliding down the hill can be very expensive. So what shape are your parents in? Before you can begin to make any real decisions, you need to determine the stage of aging your parent is in and what kind of assistance he or she needs. This can be done through an assessment, either an informal one that you can do or a professional one. Poor self-care needs and bathing habits often are signs that health is declining, as are spoiled or inadequate food in the home, exceptional clutter, dents in the car, lots of unopened mail, unpaid bills, close calls. If you're not sure, get a professional assessment. This is done by a geriatrician. If the most common killers are heart disease and cancer, the most feared is Alzheimer's. It is the only cause of death in the top 10 that cannot be cured, or at least for now, slowed. Alzheimer's disease is the most common cause of dementia or loss of intellectual function among people aged 65 and older. Many seniors at the first sign of a senior moment believe they have Alzheimer's. If you forgot where you parked your car, you're probably fine. If you put your keys in the refrigerator, maybe you need to be evaluated. There are many evaluation tests. One tool often used is the clock drawing test. Another is the Folsom test. You may have heard about a friend being asked to count backwards by 7 or spell world backward. Alzheimer's is a progressive disease with different care requirements and treatments in various stages, so you really need to check with your doctor. The place to go to get facts instead of fiction is the Alzheimer's Association. They are an amazing resource. Learn about the stages of Alzheimer's and the help that is out there. As we decline, we eventually will need a little help with daily living activities like driving, cooking, or handling money. These are called instrumental activities of daily living, or IADLs. Later, we will need even more help with things more basic like dressing, bathing, and going to the bathroom. These are called activities of daily living, ADLs. These categories become important when assessing the kind of care needed and who and where that care can be provided. For an example, an assisted living facility may not be licensed to help seniors who need help with ADLs. You will not qualify for Medicaid unless you need help with 2 ADLs. You can't make a plan unless you know the relevant facts and all the potential caregivers are on the same team. You need to get the team together. The best way is with a family meeting. You can do it in person at your parents' home, or if you're all scattered, you can do it by Skype. If you hate your sister and know there's going to be a battle, invite a mediator. That's my day job. If your parents are attending, remember you will always be their children, never their parent. Be forever conscious that above all they cherish their independence. The quickest way to shut down the discussion is to start talking about money before you talk about health concerns. There are lots of ideas of what needs to be covered at a family meeting. Suggestions are all over the internet. If nothing else is accomplished, start to gather as many facts as you can about family doctors, financial advisors, banks, passwords, and neighbors. Consider it like a scavenger hunt. If parents are receptive, try and learn in what ways they are prepared or unprepared for the future. What are their future housing preferences and options? Would those change if one parent is widowed? Have they made preparations for long-term care? Do they have any idea what it costs or how they will pay for it? Who would be parents' choice as a caregiver? Their spouse? One of their children? A caregiver service? What would they absolutely not want as part of their future plans? Your meeting may have been triggered by concerns over your parents driving. Studies show that seniors actually cause fewer auto accidents than the youngest drivers, but if an accident occurs, the older driver is much greater risk for serious injury or death. In California, when you are 70, you can no longer renew your license by mail. Probably a good thing. And anyone can fill out a DMV request for driver re-examination to flag an unsafe driver. Officials try to keep the reporter's name confidential. And the DMV may, for safety reasons, issue a driver's license for a shorter period of time than the terms of a regular license. Or depending on your ability, you may qualify for a restricted license that only permits you to drive during daylight hours, on city streets, not highways or freeways, or within 20 miles of your home. But helping your parents learn about available alternatives is essential. If they have money, tell them about Uber. If they don't, take the bus with your dad. Help him get a senior pass. Consider the type of caregiver you may be. A long-distance caregiver, the sandwich generation caregiver who's caring for children and their parents, the spousal caregiver, the working caregiver, or maybe you're a reluctant but legally responsible caregiver. 40% of caregivers are in the sandwich caregiver category, 40% in the spousal caregiver category. Whatever kind of caregiver you are, your plan will be affected by your status as a caregiver. Creating a caregiving plan just involves a little advanced thinking. Focus on how much help needs to be provided, where you can get that help, and specifically who will do the required task. When will they do it, and how often will they do it, and how much will it cost? If you are considering a senior moving in with you and quitting your day job, you may think about getting paid by your parents. The main rules are the agreement must be in writing, and compensation for care must be reasonable. This means it should not be more than would be paid to a third party for the same care in your state or geographic area. Assume the IRS will call you an employee and not an independent contractor, which triggers withholding. Use a payroll service if you can. Payments under the table are illegal, and they ruin your argument to Medicaid that this was not a gift. The Family Medical Leave Act is a federal law that protects you from losing your job when you need time to care for a seriously ill family member. A company with 50 or more employees must allow their workers at least 12 weeks of unpaid leave to care for a family member. You must have worked for the company at least 1,250 hours over the previous 12 months. Your company is obliged to give you full health benefits during your leave, and you are entitled to get your old job back or another position with equivalent duties and the same salary and benefits when you return. You can break up the 12 weeks worth of time as needed. For more information, go to the U.S. Department of Labor's website. It's important for your parents to have a primary care doctor, someone who can coordinate their care. Try and find a medical help group that keeps all their records available online. And tell the primary care doctor any history your parents might not have reported to them, particularly allergies to medicines. They may not tell the primary doctor that they're a heavy smoker or drinker, so make sure this information is available. Find out the doctors and hospitals' policy on releasing medical information and complete the necessary forms. Hospitals have to comply with the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. You need to know as much as you can learn about your parents. Collecting personal information is very important. The slides above show some of the categories of things you should be collecting. The lawyer may want a little more detail about legal documents, real estate documents, investment documents, retirement program information, insurance and annuity policies, the last 3 years of tax returns, business interests, other income, other debts, other expenses, gifts that were made, residential agreements. These are all important information to have in advance. Let's talk a little bit about preparing for incapacity. Seniors need to make sure someone can step in for them if they can no longer make decisions on their own. If you don't plan ahead and pick the right people for certain jobs, your family may have to resort to a court proceeding for help. In some states, this help is called a guardianship. In California, it's called a conservatorship. A will is important, but it only operates after you're deceased. If you are alive but lack capacity, you need someone to make decisions about your health care and someone who can handle your property interests. And once you no longer have capacity, it is too late to choose who you want to act on your behalf. A durable power of attorney provides a simple way to appoint an agent or agents you want to manage any part or all of your affairs, financial, personal, or both. You can include instructions, guidelines, or limitations as you wish. You can make it limited or general. Generally, these documents must be signed and notarized. A few states have additional requirements. In most states, it is durable only if the document states that it shall continue in effect or take effect after incapacity occurs. You can define the process you want to use for determining when the principal has become incapacitated. The negative of this document is there is no court oversight of the agent, and little capacity is required to create a durable power of attorney. But remember, it's revocable if you still have capacity. Banks, brokers, and others have their own rules how they can be used. Make sure you go to the parent's bank with the parent to find out their rules for a safe deposit box. In most states, having your parent's key is not enough, so plan ahead of time. Online, there are many opportunities to get printed forms that create a durable power of attorney. If you have extraordinary circumstances, you really should have this form reviewed by an attorney. A healthcare power of attorney acts for you when you cannot communicate an informed decision on your own, either because you cannot physically communicate in any way or because you cannot formulate an informed decision. It can be narrow or broad. It can have other names, healthcare proxy or advance directive. Most states have special witnessing requirements for the document. Many states have statutory forms that may be used. A few states require that you follow all or part of the statutory form. Make sure your agent knows your preferences and will be a strong advocate for you. Families often fight over who should be appointed. If you use a form, read it carefully, tailor it so that it clearly expresses your values and wishes. You can get the form on the internet. Most states, bar associations or other associations have these forms readily available. A living will. It is different from a healthcare power of attorney in that a living will does not appoint an agent and in some states applies only to terminal illness or a coma-like state. Most states have a statute with a suggested form to use and instructions to follow for creating a living will. Witness requirements vary from state to state. Ask your doctor about a do not resuscitate order or comfort care order or physician's order for life-sustaining treatment that will be effective in any care setting. Make sure your doctor places a copy in your medical record. A POLST in California is a colored document and is signed by the doctor, so has extra weight. You can get this form online and you can review it at your leisure, but it's a very important form for a late stage senior. Remember, your last will and testament operates only after death. If you die without it, you die intestate, and each state has its rules as to who gets what. Property in your IRA or a life insurance policy will not pass through your will. They pass by operation of law. You can get a simple will on many state bar association websites. A trust is used to manage assets both during your life and after your death. When a will is offered for probate, what the will says becomes a matter of public record. A trust does not get offered for probate. Revocable trusts are trusts you create and can change or revoke while you're alive. You can serve as a trustee and decide how you want to spend assets or give them away. A living trust is one type of revocable trust. Irrevocable trusts are created while you're alive but cannot be changed or revoked. To achieve certain tax or other benefits, you must put the assets beyond your control. This means you cannot change who gets what, and the trust agreement spells out how the trust will be managed and distribute assets. Special needs trusts are irrevocable and they allow a beneficiary to still qualify for government benefits. If there are assets that must go through probate, it's not the expensive nightmare it used to be. Many states have simplified procedures for transferring property in probate for small estates worth under a certain amount. Most probate courts have self-help sections on the internet which explain the rules of probate and conservatorship in the necessary forms. If you have the time and patience, you may be able to accomplish a simple procedure without an attorney. Surrogacy laws are simply those rules that allow a patient to designate an adult who's in a hospital setting to get health information. They have limited duration, usually 60 days. A conservatorship is a probate proceeding where a judge appoints a responsible person, a conservator, to care for another adult who can't care for himself. There's a conservator of the person who cares for and protects a person when the judge decides that the person can't do it. And there's a conservator for the estate, which handles the conservative's financial matters, like paying bills. If the conservatorship is something that's totally foreign to you, again, check your local probate court and look at the self-help section, which should help you understand a little more about conservatorship. But basically, you know that there are two kinds, a conservator of the person and a conservator of the state. And these can be the same person, but may not. It's important that you avoid conservatorship at all costs, and we've already talked about how to do that. There's a procedure for a Social Security rep payee, which is another opportunity to help a senior. You need to know that you can get appointed as a Social Security rep payee to receive your parents' Social Security or SSI benefits when they can't manage or direct the management of the benefits themselves. But this is a procedure that you must do at Social Security. You can't do it online. If you hire an attorney to write your will, you can check them out on the State Bar Association. If you check me out, you'll find out that I'm licensed to practice law in Ohio only. Make sure the attorney you hire has expertise in what you need. Elder law can include Medicaid eligibility, spousal refusal, guardianship, conservatorship, special needs planning, tax planning, Medicaid asset protection. There are a lot of designations that elder law seems to include a little bit more than the old estate planning designation used to include. There are some lawyers who specialize in elder law, and many of them can be found in the NAELA website. They can explain more complicated trusts like credit shelter trusts and irrevocable life insurance trusts or charitable remainder trusts. They can be essential if you have a large estate and you and your wife both have children from previous marriages. Once you know help is required, whether with ADLs or IADLs, you should make a resource assessment list and figure out as best you can the tasks required, the number of hours required to do it, the person or company assigned, and the cost per week. If you can afford a geriatric care manager, that person can do all this for you. This profession is not well regulated, so you should proceed with caution. Most seniors will want to stay home, and to do so may require design changes. There are many companies that specialize in this, but some things should be obvious. Make it harder for them to fall down. Make it easier for them to use the bathroom, and make it brighter. There are too many new gadgets out there to describe, but most of us remember the commercial, "I've fallen and can't get up." These new devices are called personal emergency response devices. You can get one that works everywhere with GPS. It might be important to make sure that they understand your parents' language. Non-medical care offer companionship, meal preparation, medication reminders, light housework. In many states, these companies are not licensed by a state agency because they offer non-medical care. So that means as a consumer, you need to do your research. A home health care agency employs the healthcare professionals being sent to your home. It is state licensed, and many seek accreditation to assure customers that they have met the high quality standards of their industry. You can check out home health care agencies on medicare.gov. If your parent needs nursing care or care provided by another licensed professional, such as a physical, respiratory, or occupational therapist, you should approach a home health care agency for the care. But make sure that that agency is Medicare certified so that if your parent meets certain conditions, Medicare will cover some of the costs. You need to check out the services that are available for help in your community. Some of these services are low cost or even free. You can find caregivers and also community support services on many online directories. The Alzheimer's Association has a good one. As will private listing services. Your state may have a good directory of services. Some private or semi-private centers offer daycare for seniors. Some cater to high-functioning seniors. Some health-centered models offer nursing care. In California, these centers are licensed by the state, and you can find a directory of centers at the state website. Many daycare centers will accept seniors with dementia or Alzheimer's, offering a caregiver some time off. There are less formal and creative arrangements made by seniors. Some are called naturally occurring retirement communities. These are arrangements in many communities where families pool resources to get senior services at a lower cost. And volunteer organizations will often have their own websites. Senior centers are a low-cost source of programs and services for seniors who are at home. Residents in independent living situations live on their own, whether in a campus setting, in an apartment building, or as part of a continuing care retirement community. Some offer typical apartment rentals with leases. Others require purchasing the property and include a homeowner's fee to cover maintenance costs. Aside from 55 plus communities and senior housing that offer meal services, if a senior needs more care, they can consider assisted living. In California, assisted living facilities are licensed as residential care facilities for the elderly, RCFEs. May also be known as retirement homes and board and care homes. The facilities can range in size from 6 beds or less to over 100 beds. There are over 7,500 licensed facilities in California, but most are board and care with 6 or fewer beds. Residential care facilities are classified as non-medical and regulated by the Department of Social Services Community Care Licensing. Since they are non-medical, don't expect Medicare to pay. They provide room, meals, and assistance with activities of daily living, but increasingly are dealing with residents with more compromised medical conditions who may use oxygen or are incontinent. And remember that many of these facilities are only inspected every 5 years, and abuse and serious neglect can go undetected. So consider the ombudsman office for information, and the best advice is to go there often. Your licensing authority may have a website that reports its latest inspection result and complaint history. When you enter an assisted living or consider putting your parents in an assisted living home, make sure you read the contract. They're not standardized, and many of the costs are not included and can only be obtained on an a la carte basis. Residential care homes in some states are also called board and care homes and may not be regulated, and may be a great alternative if you inspect them and like them. There are companies that will match you with the best facility for your budget for free, but since they are paid by the facilities, they may not show you a facility that won't pay them. So make sure that you understand the rules going into one of these free assistance groups. There are websites that let you search for options that may have a profit motive that is less obvious, but still may be very helpful. Some assisted living facilities offer memory care, which will take Alzheimer's seniors. Some facilities have independent living, assisted living, and memory care, all in the same facility. Skilled nursing facilities are sometimes called nursing homes, provide around-the-clock skilled nursing care for the elderly who require high level of medical care and assistance. Nursing homes will handle Alzheimer's residents sometimes in a separate unit or separate ward. You can search nursing homes and get needed information on the government site, medicare.gov. All nursing homes in California must be licensed by the California Department of Public Health and meet California nursing home standards. In addition to being licensed, nursing homes that choose to participate in the Medicare and Medi-Cal programs must be certified by the federal government in order to qualify for payments from these programs. Federally certified facilities must meet federal standards as well as the California requirements. Most California nursing homes are certified to participate in both Medicare and Medi-Cal. If your parent can afford the high entry and the monthly outlay, continuing care retirement communities offer an entire continuum of care from independent living to skilled nursing care, all on one campus. If money is not a problem, they will offer help at all stages and have different levels of care depending on what kind of contract you agree to. You really need legal help if you're considering a CCRC, particularly since they have very expensive buy-ins and vary tremendously from state to state. Now the trick is to pay for it all. If you want more information on the cost of care, you can get some good information online at payingforseniorcare.com. But obviously, the best way to find out what something costs is to do your own private investigation. Social Security is the main source of funds for most seniors. The age in which you begin to take Social Security affects how much you'll receive over the duration of your retirement. If you were born between 1943 and 54, your full retirement age is 66. But if you were born between 1955 and 1959, your full retirement age gradually moves to 67. You qualify for Social Security benefits after you've worked at a job and they've deducted Social Security taxes for a specific amount of time. You need to earn at least 40 total credits, and you can earn a maximum of 4 credits a year, meaning that it takes at least 10 years of work to qualify. In 2015, you earned 1 credit for each $1,220 in earning. The amount you receive from Social Security is calculated by averaging the highest 35 years of income. If you didn't work for all of those 35 years or otherwise had no income, that year will count as a 0. You may start receiving benefits as early as age 62. They reduce your benefits if you start early. They reduce your benefit about 0.5% for each month you start your Social Security before your full retirement age. For example, if your full retirement age is 66 and you sign up for Social Security when you're 62, you would only get 75% of your full benefit. There are calculators on the site to help you decide. Ask an advisor about how the spousal benefit works or divorce benefits if you've been married 10 years and divorced at least 2 and have not remarried. Medicare is the name of the federal government's health insurance program for people who, having paid into Social Security, are at least 65 years old or who are disabled. People often confuse Medicare with Medicaid. Medicare is an entitlement program to which everyone who has contributed to Social Security and is either over 65 or is permanently disabled has a right. Medicaid, Medi-Cal in California, is a welfare program that is available only to those who meet strict financial qualifications. Medicare only pays fully for the first 20 days of nursing home care and then partially pays for the next 80 days with the nursing home resident responsible for a co-payment. Medicaid, on the other hand, pays the cost of long-term nursing home care as long as it is required, with the only co-payment being a patient pay amount that is calculated in accordance with income and need considerations. Medicare Part A, often referred to as hospital insurance, helps pay for hospital care, hospice care, and some limited home health care. Inpatient psychiatric care for 190 days. Most people do not have to pay a premium for Medicare Part A because they or a spouse paid Medicare taxes while working in the United States. If an individual is not eligible for the premium-free Medicare Part A, there is an option to enroll and pay a premium. Part B, often referred to as medical insurance, primarily covers physician bills, outpatient services, tests, and medical equipment. Doctor visits, medical tests, ambulance services, some durable medical equipment. It does not cover eye tests, hearing aids, dental exams, long-term care, assisted living. Part C deals with newer ways for providing medical services, such as managed care plans and health maintenance organizations. If you opt for Part C, your monthly payment covers what you would have been purchasing separately as Parts A, B, D, and Medigap. However, you are limited to your choice of doctors and pharmacies. Part C plans offer a reduction in overall costs in exchange for a narrower cost of providers. And Part D is the prescription drug program. Medicare offers prescription drug coverage to everyone with Medicare. If you decide not to join a Medicare prescription drug plan when you're first eligible and you don't have other credible prescription drug coverage or you don't get extra help, you're likely to pay a late enrollment penalty. To get Medicare drug coverage, you must join a plan run by an insurance company or other private company employed by Medicare. Each plan can vary in cost and drugs covered. In order to qualify for Medicare coverage in a skilled nursing facility, it must be Medicare certified, and you must meet the following requirements: a physician's certification that you need skilled nursing care or rehabilitation on a daily basis, hospital admittance for 3 days prior to transferring to a skilled nursing facility. This is the so-called 3-day rule, and admittance to skilled nursing facility within 30 days of the hospitalization for the same illness or injury. This 3-day rule can trick you up. Your time in the emergency room may not count as a day, and the hospital may be anxious to discharge you before those 3 days. So you don't want to get a terrible surprise, so make sure you will qualify. Medicare supplemental insurance, also called Medigap, is a type of policy you can purchase separately that can help you with the co-payments and deductibles not covered by Medicare. These plans are offered by private insurance companies. There are many options available. You can compare Medigap policies at medicare.gov. The plans are standardized and are titled A, B, C, D, F, G, K, L, M, and N. Each plan offers different benefits for different costs depending on what additional coverage you feel you need to supplement the coverage Medicare provides. All of the 10 options have a benefit for Medicare Part A hospital coinsurance for stays up to an additional 365 days after Medicare is used up. Plans F and G are the most comprehensive. Medicare.gov provides a chart showing all of the 10 lettered plan options and what each one covers. You can check them out on their website. Check with your insurance guy for some additional ideas. You may have a policy that is marketable, and if you're younger, he may have a great idea for you to start saving through your insurance for long-term care. Long-term care is a separate kind of policy, and you have to consider whether it's worth it. Older applicants may not qualify. 40% in the 70s don't. 50% of all claims are not made until insureds are in their 80s. 60 to 70% of all nursing home stays are 90 days or less, and the policy may not pay for the first 90 days. There's a lot to consider when you consider a long-term care policy. There are many different kinds of long-term care policies, and they're not all created equal and should be carefully examined. Like most things, you get what you pay for. If you're at retirement age, a long-term care policy may not already be affordable, may no longer be affordable. Make sure you know what you are paying for and whether your insurance company will be there to pay you when you need them. Check out longtermcare.gov for some decent information. Some questions to ask are, what are the actual services that are covered by your policy? Will it cover home health care? Does the policy have a dollar amount maximum lifetime benefit? How much does the policy pay per day or month for each? Does the policy have a benefit period? Does the policy have an elimination period? Is there a pre-existing condition exclusion? Is there a waiver of premium provision? Does the policy offer inflation protection options? Does the policy offer non-forfeiture options? What is the policy cost per year? This is a real good area to make sure that your insurance guy knows what he's talking about. Get as much help as you can before you purchase a long-term care policy. On to Medicaid, Medi-Cal in California. Medicaid is a joint federal and state-funded program enacted in 1965. Although the programs are run by individual states, they must all conform to basic standards established by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid under federal statutes enacted by Congress. Medicaid is Medi-Cal in California, Mass Health in Massachusetts and Tennessee, it's TennCare in Michigan, it's medical assistance. Medical home and community-based services are also known as waiver-funded services or the waiver program. Medicaid is the only public benefits program that pays for long-term care in a nursing home. If you cannot afford the fees as a private pay patient, you may need Medicaid. Most people qualify for Medicaid only after they have used up most of their savings. Neither Medicare nor Medigap policies cover most care in a long-term care facility or nursing home. Qualifications for Medicaid vary by state. There is an entire legal industry helping people with substantial assets figure out how to keep them and still eventually become Medicaid eligible. The rules are complex. There are look-back rules, non-countable assets, spend-down tactics, and strategies in abundance, and different rules in every state. But the best planning can be wrecked by any change in the law. Any real effective plan will start 5 years before you need to qualify. Veteran benefits provide those who have served their country, as well as their spouses, financial assistance during their retirement years. There is a VA website with detailed information. Veterans who are at least 65 years old and who served during wartime, though not necessarily in actual combat, may be eligible for financial assistance through the Department of Veterans Affairs. Spouses and surviving spouses of wartime veterans are also often eligible. There are 3 tiers of VA benefits for older wartime veterans and their dependents. These are all described on the VA website. Basic pension can be considered the first tier, housebound the second, aid and attendance the third tier. Award amounts increase as the tier increases, and the tiers are based on the needs of the applicant. Basic pension is designed to function as cash assistance for low-income veterans and their dependents. So applicants may be healthy but must have a very low income. For the second tier, housebound, assistance with day-to-day activities must be needed on a regular basis. For aid and attendance, assistance must be required on a daily basis. Dates of service, which are prerequisite, can be established from discharge papers. If you've lost them, you can contact the National Archives. Assistance from the VA is means tested, which means that only people who seem to genuinely need these benefits will receive an award. It also means that benefits are determined based on the applicant's income, assets, and needs. Applicants whose countable incomes are over maximum thresholds, including their homes, may still qualify depending on their age and the amount of their monthly allowable medical benefit. The tests used for VA are different from those used to qualify for Medicaid. So a good consultant can help you determine if you qualify. To apply for VA health care or determine eligibility, you can call the VA Health Benefits Service Center. VA benefits can be very complex, so you might consider speaking with a veteran service officer. These are volunteers. You can check and find them on the VA website. When people most talk about a reverse mortgage, they are discussing the program offered by an FHA-approved lender, which is known as a home equity conversion mortgage. There are private versions of these loans which have different features. It's tougher and more expensive than before to get a reverse mortgage. The new rules are on the HUD.gov website. It is still a loan or line of credit with no payments until the surviving borrower dies, sells the home, or moves out. But now, before you can get a loan, you need some mandatory counseling and a credit check to prove you will pay your taxes and upkeep. Before signing up, talk to your attorney. Ask him how the loan can affect your Medicaid eligibility down the road or planning opportunities. It's a very expensive loan. You have a mortgage origination premium and closing costs. How much you can borrow depends on your age, the appraisal, and the interest rate. If you take a reverse mortgage too early in your life, the money may be gone before you really need it. End-of-life planning. Many people struggling with terminal disease become at a certain point more interested in their comfort than a remote cure. Palliative care focuses on relieving pain, symptoms, and stresses caused by a serious illness to give patients the best quality of life possible. Hospice care involves care for terminally ill people outside a hospital setting with the goal of providing comfort and dignity in a person's final days. Generally, hospice care is done when a person is expected to live no more than 6 months. Medicare will cover the cost of hospice care. You can get more information about hospice by going to the website of the Hospice Foundation of America. Under the FTC's funeral room, the Federal Trade Commission, consumers have the right to get a general price list from a funeral provider when they ask about funeral arrangements. They also have the right to choose the funeral goods and services they want, and funeral providers must state this right on the general price list. If state or local law requires purchase of any particular item, the funeral provider must disclose it on the price list with a reference to the specific law. The funeral provider may not refuse or charge a fee to handle a casket bought elsewhere, and a provider offering cremations must make alternative containers available. The FTC conducts undercover investigations every year to make sure that funeral homes are complying with the agency's funeral rule. The funeral rule applies anytime a consumer seeks information from the funeral provider, whether the consumer is asking about pre-need or at-need arrangements. Another option is a body donation. I am registered to become a donor to the WillEd Whole Body Program, Stanford's Division of Clinical Anatomy. They will keep my name and contact information on file. Upon my death, the caregiver or family member must contact them within 24 hours of my death. They will arrange for a funeral home to transport my body to Stanford Medical School, where it may be used to teach students about the structure of the human body and for the purpose of conducting medical research. Immediately following the study of the body, they will then arrange for cremation. The study period may range from 1 month to 2 years, but is typically about a year in duration. At the time of donation, my family will be asked to specify whether they wish for the cremated remains to be returned or whether they would like us to arrange for interment. The cost of this program is $0. 1 in 10 older people, or 5 million people a year, are victims of elder abuse. Only 1 in 24 cases of elder abuse are reported. For financial elder abuse, the ratio is 1 in 44 cases. Victims of elder abuse are 3 times more likely than other seniors to die within a few years and 4 times more likely to go into a nursing home. I'm an ombudsman. I see this all the time. You really have to ask the right questions and make sure that your loved ones are not being abused. And if you suspect abuse, you must report it. Contact the Adult Protective Service Agency in the state where your loved one lives. You can find the Adult Protective Service reporting number for each state by visiting the State Resources section of the National Center on Elder Abuse website. Or you can call 1-800-677-1116. Another form of elder abuse is elder scams, and elders are twice as likely to be a victim. One of the reasons is because they have usually a lot of their cash on hand. They're very susceptible to receiving phone calls. They still have landlines. They are more polite and they listen and they don't just hang up on people. And a lot of these scams involved identity theft, someone calling saying they're from Social Security or IRS or from Medicare, or a charity that doesn't really exist. Prizes are also just an unfortunate scam when an elder thinks he actually won something, and in order to claim his reward, he has to give up some information. So these should be reported as well, and hopefully you, if you hear of such a scam, you will report it as soon as possible. Obviously, there's so much more that could have been covered here. I just tried to hit the highlights and high points. I have a website called Elder Planning 101. And if you go to that website, you can find links to almost everything that I've talked about here, organized in a similar manner, but with the advantage of being able to go to websites that have much more information than I've had the time to report. There's nothing for sale here. It's just a place to get good information. As I indicated, I am an elder mediator. I practice in the Bay Area of California. I have a website called bayareaeldermediations.com. At that website, you can get a little more information about me and elder mediation. And hopefully you found this useful. And if you have any questions, you can go to one of those websites and find an easy way to contact me. Thanks.